Everyone talks about agile metrics, velocity, story points, burnout charts, sprint goals. But the reality is that these metrics will tell you almost nothing about how healthy your delivery system really is. Velocity can go up while morale goes down. You'll have seen burnout charts that look perfect while delivery value actually is flatlining. It's like judging someone's fitness by how many steps they took without actually checking to see if they're breathing properly. My point is that we're measuring the wrong things. Let me start with a quote that stuck by me. Velocity measures effort, not flow. And as we know, effort does not always equal progress. In fact, a 2024 mixed method study into how agile teams measure performance showed that most teams rely on very surface level indicators, metrics that are easy to collect but don't reveal bottlenecks, waiting times, or decision. Another study into agile decision making found that the biggest delays weren't caused by coding or testing. They were caused by slow decisions and unclear ownership. And that's the part of Agile that no one really measures. So in this video, I want to go deeper, way deeper. I want to walk you through the 5 metrics that nobody talks about. These metrics will show you how to see your system differently. Not just how fast people are moving, but where the flow breaks, where the learning stops, and where leadership slows things down. And for each one, I'll show you exactly how to measure it step by step so you can apply it to your own delivery setup, whether you're running one team or 10 teams. What you'll see is that once you start to measure what really matters, then everything will change. Let's start with why so many organizations get this wrong. Velocity, burnout charts, story points, these were never meant to be performance indicators. They were meant to be conversation starters, tools to help a team self-reflect. But over time, they've become weaponized. Velocity becomes a target. Story points become an output measure. Teams have started to optimize for looking fast instead of being effective. Where does this go wrong? It starts to go wrong the moment you start to compare velocity across teams, or you start to report it upwards to execs. It stops being that learning metric and starts to become a scoreboard. And when you create scoreboards, people will start to game them. Work gets split differently, points get inflated, risks get avoided, the data stays clean, but the system rots. And that's why we need a new lens. We need metrics that measure flow, friction, and learning speed, not delivery volume. So let's start with the first one, flow efficiency. Flow efficiency is the percentage of time a piece of work is actually being worked on versus how long it spends waiting around your system. And here's how you think about it. If a story takes 10 days to complete, but your team only spent 2 days actively working on it, your flow efficiency is 20%. That means 80% of your time is wasted waiting for something, reviews, test environments, approvals, dependencies, etc. Most teams are stunned the first time they calculate this. Industry averages often sit below 15%, which means that 85% of your delivery time is just waiting. Flow efficiency exposes those hidden cues, the real reason delivery feels slow while everyone still feels busy. So how do we obtain this metric? First of all, define what counts as active work. In your workflow, whether it's Jira, Azure DevOps, or Trello, mark which stages work is happening, like coding, reviewing, testing. Everything else is waiting, blocked, ready for review in a queue, which counts as waiting time. Next step is get a sample. Take all the tickets completed last month. Don't cherry pick a sprint, just get a representative batch. And then for each ticket, write down when the work started, when it entered an active stage, when it finished, when it entered done, and when it entered and left any waiting stages. And from this, you can calculate the total time from end to start. And then you'll also work out the active time, the sum of duration in the active stages. And your flow efficiency is simply your active time divided by your total time times 100. There's a few things you can use to visualize this. You can use tools like Linear B, Jira plugins like Actionable Agile, or even export the CSV data and do it manually. A box plot over time will help you spot these trends. All right, so now that you've got your flow efficiency, you realize it's dropping. That's a warning. It means that you're queuing more work than you can handle, or that approvals and dependencies are slowing you down. So use it to start experiments. What happens if you add a daily review hour to reduce waiting? What if QA and devs pair tested instead of handing off? Don't chase that perfection. Don't try to hit 100%. The goal is visibility. It's about seeing where your time really goes. All right, metric number 2, decision latency. Decision latency measures how long it takes your organization to make a decision once the need for one arises. It's one of the biggest killers of delivery speed. Teams aren't slow because they're lazy. They're slow because they're waiting for answers, waiting for architecture approval, for a product call, for leadership to decide between 2 priorities. And every "I'll get back to you tomorrow" adds that little bit of friction. A LinkedIn article by Matthew Corey called this the hidden cost of waiting, a kind of organizational tax that compounds every week. If your decision latency is high, your agility is fake. You're sprinting in circles while waiting for someone else's green light. So how do we measure this? First of all, Define decision types and decide what qualifies as a decision type. Feature prioritization, architectural approval, budget sign-off, etc. Next, track the decisions. For each one, log 2 timestamps. When the team requested the decision, the moment they stopped and they couldn't proceed, and when that decision was made. The next step is to calculate latency. And to work out the decision latency, you take the time that the decision was made and you minus the time that is requested. You collect this data for a few weeks, and even 10 to 20 decisions will give you a good insight. Then you break it down. Is it technical decisions that are holding you up, or are they business decisions that are holding you up? Is it the team that's holding you up? Is it the leadership that's holding you up? And then you look for your lowest 10%, and that's where your real agility problems are hiding. So how do we use this? Now, you'll be glad to know that high decision latency is not fixed by more meetings. It's fixed by more clarity. So you have to ask the questions. Who is empowered to decide what at what level? What decisions can the team make without approval? Which ones need more governance and why? Sometimes just writing down who decides what makes things so much easier. You're aiming for shorter decision loops, which equals faster learning, fewer blockers. The next metric, time to learn. Right, what does that mean? Everyone tracks time to release, but the best teams track time to learn. Time to learn measures how long it takes from shipping something to knowing whether it worked. In product terms, the gap between done and validated, because really output means nothing without feedback. If it takes you 3 months to realize that a feature didn't land with users, that's 3 months of waste. Speed to learn is speed to adapt, and that's the real competitive edge, and that's the basis of Agile. So how do we measure this? First of all, define learning. Decide what counts as evidence. Customer feedback, analytics data, A/B results, usability testing, stakeholder validation. Right. Next, mark key timestamps. When the work is released or demoed, the first meaningful feedback, the decision made based on that feedback. And you can calculate this metric in that way. Time to learn is the feedback timestamp minus the release timestamp. And if your time to learn is high, it means you're really shipping in the dark. So use techniques like feature flags for small experiments, canary releases to get early data, show and tells for internal learning loops. Shorten that feedback loop and you'll shorten the risk. The key thing is that teams that learn fast outperform those that deliver fast because they improve faster. Again, going back to the basis of agility here. Next metric is flow load, or work in progress. This shows how many work items are currently in progress across your system, and it's the silent killer of throughput. Every new in-progress ticket creates drag, more context switching, more coordination, more mental load. When your throughput plateaus, even as your work in progress climbs, your system is overloaded. So how do we measure this? First of all, you define what counts as in progress. Any ticket that started but not finished. Then you take daily snapshots. Every morning, count how many active work items are on the board. Average them across the week, so you get a rolling week average of work in progress, which shows your true flow load. Right, next, plot those work in progress items versus the items completed. When work in progress is rising, but completed items are flatlining, you're in trouble. And really, even small increases in work in progress over time often predict those upcoming delays. So how do we use work in progress? First of all, implement work in progress limits per team or per workflow stage. Encourage teams to finish the work before starting new items, and visualize those work queues. If you can't see the work, you can't manage it. The paradox of productivity, sometimes doing less at once gets you more done overall. Right, final metric, team health and cognitive load. Not every metric lives in Jira. Some of the most important data points are emotional. How stretched is your team feeling? How safe do they feel? How clear are they about priorities? Research into psychological safety consistently shows that it's the top predictor of team performance. Not IQ, not budget, not headcount. When safety goes down, creativity, risk-taking, and problem-solving go straight down with it. Now, alongside psychological safety, cognitive load, which is the mental strain of juggling too many tasks in too many contexts. You can have that perfect flow and your team can still be burning out, which is going to give you problems very shortly down the line. So how do we measure this? First of all, run quick, regular pulse surveys. Every sprint or fortnight, ask anonymously, how clear were our priorities this sprint? How safe did you feel raising issues? How manageable was your workload? Use a 1 to 5 scale, simple, fast, repeatable. What's the trend, not just the score? If it's declining over time, that's an early warning system. And you compare this with flow data. If the team health is dipping while the flow load is increasing, that's showing systemic overload. What you need to do at this point is acknowledge patterns openly. Be visible, adjust those priorities, and celebrate any improvements. So these 5 metrics, flow efficiency, decision latency, time to learn, flow load, and team health, are your dashboard for systemic clarity. They tell you where the friction hides, where energy leaks out, and where leadership is really needed. Remember, you're using them not to judge, but to coach. When a number changes, don't ask, who's caused this? Ask, what is the system telling us? That's a mindset shift there from just management to actually leadership. So forget any vanity metrics that you're using. Start measuring things that slow down how your system really behaves. How fast you learn, how long decisions take, how much work is stuck waiting, how healthy are the people who are doing it. And because delivery leadership isn't about speed, it's about flow. And once you can see your system clearly, you can lead wisely. Thanks for listening. And if this resonated with you, then subscribe to the Agile Edge, where we go beyond frameworks and buzzwords to talk about what really drives delivery. I'm Wasim, and I'll see you next time.